Do you feel there's a quickening and acceleration of time? Do you feel pushed into this new year, or are you being pulled? My name's Carol Talbot, and in Messages That Matter, I'm in conversation with David Gross as he shares wisdom and insights for your growth and your evolution. Hello, David. We've sped into another year, and last year went so quickly, and there seems to be such an acceleration of time at the moment that many people may be wondering, how do they cope with this acceleration that seems to be coming in fast and furious?
Hello, Carol, and Happy New Year to you. And I can certainly relate to the acceleration or the concept of acceleration, because I've been feeling this for a couple of months coming into this new year. What is different for me now, as I'm processing or interpreting perhaps the experience, what's different for me is it doesn't feel like I'm being pushed into doing more or being more or creating more than I was before, but it's coming from the other side. I'm being drawn into that which I've already set the intention to create and to experience and to explore. So on the one hand, there's an acceleration, but on the other hand, at a kind of a deeper layer of my experience is feeling drawn into more. And then what that reveals, because as I'm feeling drawn into more, there is, if we want to go to traditional maybe language, the emotional baggage things or the thought things and belief things that I can't carry with me moving forward because they won't serve me.
The image that comes to mind as you're speaking is, you're not just on the treadmill is moving now, and you need to move with it. And that's a nice metaphor, that rather than being pulled,
or pushed.
Or push, sorry, you're being pulled. It's like it's drawing you
being
forward.
Drawn into, yeah.
And the question you've just raised is, what are you carrying with you? So if the treadmill is already on, what baggage is making it hard for you to literally keep up on the treadmill?
Yes, and that's, I like that you just said keeping up, because that really fits perfectly with this image here, because there are thoughts and beliefs that if I just make it personal right now, and maybe other people who are listening to this or watching this later can relate to this in some way. There are thoughts, there are beliefs, emotions as well, that I've been holding on to, that even more this year than in previous years, I felt the strong, I'll call it a need, because I don't use that word very frequently, but a need to release that or those, because they don't serve me. And an example of that would be, I went through my phone today and I went through my WhatsApp image folders and my Messenger folders and my Viber folders. So different images, graphics, pictures, videos that have been shared with me from different people over the last year or so. I realized, I really need to clean those out because the memory of the times, the memory of the conversations, the memory of the experiences, the memory of the circumstances is kind of heavy, dense, kind of weighty energy. It doesn't matter however you define that.
It's almost like a cord attached to you with
yes.
an image, a memory.
100%, because I was looking at a handful of, I deleted probably close to 200, as a matter of fact. And when I would look at certain images, some I had to kind of open up to, because I was looking in the folder view, some I had to open up to remember exactly, what is that? I can't quite tell from the little thumbnail. But when I opened them, and also when I just looked at them in that massive list view there, it's amazing. And I think many people anyway will have this experience where each image has an energetic connection to a memory of the time or a memory of those times. And I could remember the people, of course, I could remember the experiences, I could probably remember the emotional connection to the conversations. And I realized, whoa, we went through so much last year. I need to release these conversations, better language. I need to release these connections to those conversations, because I'm choosing now to step forward, kind of clean slate. Let's call it that, clean slate or clear slate. I want to step forward into this new year without the energetic cords of connection to what was having any influence or impact on me moving forward, like you said, on that treadmill.
Yes, exactly. And it's funny you're talking about this, because the latest podcast that's just about to come out that I put together, I decided to call it The Big Cleanse. And, when people think of a cleanse, it could be a physical cleanse.
Mhm.
of the body, detoxing after usually the excess of the festive season.
Mhm.
Except I looked at it from all angles, as
Yes.
you're saying, your physical space. If your outer space is full of clutter, then that also is reflected in your mind.
Yes.
I talked about emotional clutter, mental
Mhm.
clutter, spiritual clutter as well, people
Yep.
that you feel no longer serve you, or you've moved away or forward from certain things. And what I hadn't mentioned was clearing your phone, your images and things like that, your devices. And it's funny, just before we logged in, I noticed my computer's a little bit sluggish. And I've deleted yesterday and today so many programs, and it's not reflected in how much space I have left on the drive. And I'm thinking, okay, I need to defrag. So
There we go. Yeah. Yeah.
after this session, defrag. And really, if you think about it, isn't that what you also need to do with your mind as well? Defrag. And before we hit the record button, we were talking about certain conversations serve you and certain conversations with certain people no longer serve you. And I think back to what I was watching maybe last year or the year before, and I don't have the attention span to watch or listen to that anymore. So it really is looking at what you want to keep from as we go into this accelerated time, and as you're pulled forward and already on that treadmill. So what you want to keep, what you want to let go of, and of course what you not only need, but what you want to bring forth.
Yeah, and I like your statement of what we want to keep. I want to fine tune that slightly, because and I learned this years ago, because I've moved 7 or 8 times in the last in my adult years, right? I've moved 7 or 8 times, and 7 of those times I left behind or gave away almost everything that I owned, and I moved with a suitcase and my computer. I was able to totally let go of everything and move to a new country, new city in that country, back to a different country again. And when I was in the intention of cleansing or clearing out my space, as it were, the physical space, the question that I learned to ask myself was not, will I miss this? Will I miss this? Not, will I use it again? So let's take clothing as an example. I've got clothes that I've had for many, many, many years. I can certainly give many of those away. But if I ask myself, well, am I going to wear it again? The answer is probably, well, yeah, maybe. And that maybe is what allows me to hold on to it, or keeps me holding on to it. But when I asked myself, will I miss it? It's like, actually, no. The question, will I miss it, was the best question for me to ask in my circumstances, because then I was able to more easily let go of those.
And here's another concept that comes to mind. Again, strange that you mention getting rid of all your possessions, because that's something that came to me in my meditation this morning. Maybe a sort of little precognition about our conversation, because I also have another guest I've spoken to, John Paul Fitchback. And in his initiation as a shaman, many, many, many years ago, he had to get rid of all his possessions. And I thought about, the concept of getting rid of everything, because it's not just letting go or questioning, will I miss it? It's also having trust that everything you need will be provided for. And where do we hold on to? I might need it in the future. Where do we always like to have extra store of everything, rather than being in that it will come in the appropriate time that I need or desire or want this? Where are we lacking the trust?
Yes, and well, the trust, I think we're lacking it because, in essence, perhaps in connection with our higher selves, we don't trust so fully that we feel safe in doing so. So there's safety when we trust 100% in ourselves and our connection and all that we're creating, then we don't feel unsafe. But if we don't have that full-on 100 out of 100% level of trust, then there's something within us that would cause us to keep, and even the extreme of hoarding, for example, because we don't feel safe without it. It gives us a security blanket or a sense of safety and predictability for what's coming.
Which of course is something that we all like, that sort of feel of safety. Yet think of the liberation that comes when you have that knowing, that perfection of the connection, that everything will be provided in the perfect timing. And as we move into these accelerated times, I feel that's what we're being called to do, to trust more as we go forward on that treadmill, you know, as we're beckoned forward into these new times of, you know, a different way of being, a new way of being.
Exactly. And so if we take the word trust, and that everything you've just shared there, I just had this streak of insight come into me, and then it's like, oh, where'd you go? Where'd you go?
In the concept about our conversations, it
isn't like, truly.
Bing, bing.
But in the concept of trusting ourselves moving forward, there is also, in that trusting, it is important for us, I believe, there we go, one very important aspect that I've discovered for me in moving forward, even though I'm pretty good at living in full trust almost all of the time, but what I've discovered in the last couple of weeks, and it hit just before Christmas, because I had an opportunity to share some of my work with a large group of individuals, and I didn't get the response that I was hoping for. And it made me, here's as honest as I can get, as vulnerable as I can be, it made me question my own worth. When I was doing everything I could to share, to say, hey, have at it, come and join in this feast that I'm creating for you, and not the numbers that I was expecting showed up and said, yeah, I want some of that, I want some of that. The deeper truth to my reality was I questioned my own value, my own worth. So when we are stepping forward in trust, I believe, okay, so let's kind of, I'm just playing with images that are coming in my head. So let's say trust is the vehicle. Trust is the vehicle that's moving us forward. So I'm in trust, I'm in the vehicle. But if I'm running on fumes, if I'm running on empty, which is my sense of value of myself, I'm not going to go very far. So I can be trusting 100%, stepping on the gas, trying to step on the gas to move forward. But if I don't have any fuel in that vehicle, meaning the value that I sense and see in myself, I'm not going to get very far. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
I never would have put these words together in this way if we weren't in this conversation right now. So that's how it feels. The vehicle is trust, but what serves me and helps me move forward, to step on the gas, to actually make that movement, to follow the path that's unfolding before me is, and maybe it's the speed at which or with which I move, is the level to which I value. And I'm not saying value from an ego perspective, because I certainly got that whacked out of me in the Zen temples in Japan 30 years ago. It's not an ego perspective, but it is a trusting also of one's value and one's worth. So it's not only trusting in the connection with all that is, it's the trusting in our value. And maybe intrinsic in that is trusting in the unfolding, if we can use that word, because I use that word a lot, but trusting in what's coming in connection with us and connection with our higher selves.
Beautiful. And that links so well with where we started with, you know, cleansing. You know, what are you carrying with you that's weighing you down? And, you know, when you clean energy attachments, physical attachments, mental attachments, emotional attachments, you become aware of who you truly are. And, you know, that's when you can be in trust and acknowledge the brilliance that, you know, you are. So I know.
Can I just also speak to one point here that's very important, because it's really screaming in my head here, is also acknowledging how we evolve through this process.
Yes.
So when you were talking about releasing, be it images or connections within images of, or videos of times or conversations, or connections with those who really kind of feel heavy in the energy of their connection with us, what I realize now in the acknowledgement or the awareness of how I'm evolving is that previously I felt called to connect with them, because in me connecting with them and offering them my counsel, my words, my time, my energy, my heart, my compassion, I was actually doing it and being self-serving, because it caused me, in my offering and in my giving and in my sharing, a sense of value in myself. which was external to me. There we go. It was
So
external.
that makes it a transaction, doesn't it?
It was transactional, yes. And
you're giving, but you expected something in return,
well,
rather than a service.
I just got to fine tune that, because I didn't go in there with that expectation,
No.
meaning I'm going to do this, you're going to do this for me. But I did go that in there with the intent, with the sense that, let's see if I can find the right language here, with the sense that I'm giving so freely of everything that I'm sharing with you. I'm doing so because if you see value in what I'm sharing, then I see value in myself. So yes, transactional, although maybe not as manipulatively transactional, but transactional still in the essence, yes. And now what I'm doing, moving into this new year, feeling drawn into this acceleration, is releasing, there we go, didn't have these words a second ago, releasing my need for those conditions to support my sense of trust and value in myself, which fuel me in the vehicle of trust moving forward. Ooh.
Beautiful.
Just don't ask me to repeat that.
Rewind the recording and listen again. So let's just wrap up here, because I want to sort of tease something else that will assist people in finding that trust, that self-worth, that connection once they've started to, release, whether it's pictures from your phone, tying up, getting rid of paperwork or old clothes, getting rid of the clutter mentally, emotionally, physically in your space, detoxing your body. We were talking before that you have a really powerful journaling method, which allows people to tap into certain questions, almost self-inquiry to a certain extent.
Yes.
So maybe just tease that. And then, because it's a sort of 15-minute process, we'll be sharing that on the next video.
Perfect. So actually, I love how our conversations just come together so naturally and so organically and lead us to where we are right now, because there is a connection with where the conversation that you and I have had just prior to getting on this call about, and then what, right? And then where does that go? The what do you do with that, right? So I love being inspiring, but then what do you do with that is my thing. You got to, okay, what are you going to do with that? So the exercise that I have is one that I discovered last summer, and it was an exercise, and I'm not going to go into the details right now, but it is a very simple exercise, and one that I started on one day and got surface level in, and then the next day added a little bit more, and then the next day all of a sudden got pages more. It's like, oh, I was in the flow. And the exercise connects us with our value. So when I stated a handful of moments ago that I'm no longer needing the external conditions to prove my sense of value in myself, which is the gas or the fuel in the vehicle, which is me trusting moving forward, this exercise will support us in the acceleration into the unfolding.
And what a liberation that is, that we have when we truly acknowledge the self-worth and who we truly are, and let go of who we're not. And then we can, we're not feeling, what's the word? Uncomfortable in the acceleration. We're more in the flow of the acceleration.
Okay, well, let's just call it, yes. The word that comes to mind for me is the word that you and I use all the time, is aligned. I'm more, okay, and maybe, for example, let's use kind of old Esther Hicks kind of words, going with the flow or against the current, right? So when we are more aligned, or more fully aligned with our value, and on the sense of our value of our in and of ourselves, we're going with the flow. When we are not, when we're questioning ourselves or doubting ourselves, we're going upriver, we're going against the stream.
Perfect. So next video, watch out, because we'll be sharing that technique to come up and develop questions that allow you to honor your self-worth and your...
Can I fine tune that? There's only 1 or 2 questions. It's all statements. We are scripting statements of what I call our deeper truths, what we know to be true about ourselves. And there's a couple of guiding questions, but then the exercise is all of the scripting, the journaling of the statements that reflect our deeper truths of who we are.
Oh, that sounds so exciting. The deeper truth coming soon.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, David. Thank you.
My pleasure.